distracted reading the newspaper. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Very good, thank you.
Bienvenidos, mis fronterizos, mis nogalenses. Thank you so much for being here with us, watching the show. Thank you to our guests, Priscilla Neftys and Angela Gervasi. I did say it right?
Yeah. Got it.
Okay, all right. They are our guests here tonight for our very special Valentine's Day episode.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Again, if you're watching the show on Facebook, then you know you can watch it there, but we're also on YouTube, on our website, Instagram, and also we have a Roku and an Amazon Fire TV channel that you can just look up We Love Nogales in the search. Ahí sale, download it, go ahead and do it right now. If you're watching this on your phone, I know you're not watching it on your TV, so your TV's free, just grab your remote and do it. And be sure, if you guys are sharing this, be sure to share it, encourage other people to subscribe to us and give us a follow. We're here to support our community and to talk about our community, so all the help that we can get. Let's talk about news real quick. Speaking of, we always do a news segment, I wanted to, since we have a journalist from the Nogales International here with us, then we have somebody to do the news segment with, which is cool. All right, so let's talk about some of the stories that have run this last Friday, actually. Taekwondo, I actually talked to Rodrigo today, and he was telling me about this too. They won 15 medals at the state championships, which is really cool.
Wow.
¿Conoces a Rodrigo?
No lo conozco personalmente.
Okay, but you know who he's really...
I've seen
the things that he's done with these kids is pretty amazing.
Yes.
And 7 of them qualified for nationals. They got first place, and they're going to go to the nationals,
Wow.
which is really, really cool. That's
Yeah.
very, very cool. Felicidades a Rodrigo, a sus estudiantes. Keep up the good work. Also, this one thing that when I was looking through all the different news that has come up, this one intrigued me, interestingly enough, and it's that the cemetery hours are reverting back to pre-pandemic hours. It's from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. They're going to close the gates at 10 p.m. and reopen at 6 a.m. I didn't know that they changed hours. Mm-hmm. But if you did know and you are concerned about this, then they are going to be closing the gates at 10 p.m. and reopening at 6. Probably one of the most interesting news items is the scam that's going around, like an MPD scam. People calling, pretending to be the Nogales Police Department and asking for personal information and even money. Are they asking for money up front? Financial, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So please, if you get a call from Nogales PD, they will never, the real Nogales PD will never ever call you and ask for personal information, and certainly not for any money. Yeah. Now, this actually is kind of related to a story that you've covered before, and it's the border wall construction and the watershed restoration in the Coronado National Forest. And so the CNF, they're going to be doing a restoration project. I didn't see all the details, but I understand that they're inviting the community to comment and give their input on it. Mm-hmm. Do you know when that's going to be?
That should be in a few weeks.
A few weeks.
But I can double check.
Okay, well, no worries. We'll find out. We'll make sure that you get that information. Also, there's a story in the Nogales International about it. Mm-hmm. And then to artists, speaking of artists, Carlos Ibarra and his mural. You guys, obviously you know all about it. ¿Tú sabes lo que está pasando?
Sí.
¿Me lo explicas?
He estado viendo, I've seen the progress that has been going on for like 6 or 7 months or so, I think, since the summer. It is a really big mural that he's doing on the facade of La Cinderella on Morley. And it depicts the border life, the 2 sides of Nogales, Sonora, and Arizona. So it's something that really represents us. I'm happy that someone is doing that, and he's really doing, very intrinsic work and
it's really detailed stuff, huh? It's so cool.
I'm excited for them to present it to the public.
Yeah, I'm excited for the unveiling of that too. That's going to be awesome.
Definitely.
All right, so that wraps up our news. There's something that I forgot to mention at the beginning, that this is a very, very important episode because it is the public debut of my man bun. Yeah. This is the first time that this has been made it out in public. I apologize, or, if you're offended by my man bun. But my hair's never been this long. I've always been used to shaving. Tú me has visto con shaved head or anything like that. You've seen me. I think you saw me the first time that I met you. My head was shaved, probably. The longest I ever had my hair, I was probably 14, and it was like right there. and now I just decided to go full Viking. I've got the beard, I've got the hair, and I'm digging it. I like it.
Is it liberating?
Yeah, it is very
Yeah.
liberating. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about it.
That's cool.
About
Yeah.
the growth of my beard and hair.
Yeah. Hair brings you in touch with your emotions.
So
that's
interestingly enough,
important.
one of the reasons I started doing it is because, well, one time I was called a standard American mutt by a British guy that I worked with. He called me a standard American mutt. And I've connected with certain parts of my lineage, my French, the Cajun, even the Mexican, and the Scottish and Irish. I've really, really spent a lot of my life connecting with those, but never with the Viking, the Norse, Danish part of it. And so part of this is to connect with my heritage in a different way, and I'm feeling it.
I'm all about that.
Yeah. Let's go over some events that we've got going up. So first off, Family Resource Night, February 23rd at Nogales High School, and this is open to the community from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It's part of the Cicreo Hub, which is pretty cool with Santa Cruz County Superintendent of Schools. Then after that, on the 25th, we've got the food safety training by Zira Food Safety. I actually don't know where this one's going to be, but all of the events you can find on the We Love Nogales Facebook page or We Love Santa Cruz County Facebook group. Also on the 25th and 26th, there is a Green Valley and Sahuarita, they're having a bike drive. Mm-hmm. And so if you've got bikes to donate, go and get them, or if you want to, if you need a bike, then you can go ahead and figure out how to get that. Cero Estres, I know, is really, really good about working with the community to make sure that people who need bikes, get bikes. Again, there's a lot going on February 25th. Art in the Park at Karam Park. So you guys know what's going on here. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I'm really excited for
It's
that.
very, very cool. Early Childhood Education Month is the month that we're in. And there's going to be information booths. There's going to be face painting, rock painting, all kinds of cool stuff. You guys going to be there?
Hopefully to cover
Hopefully.
it, yeah.
Very cool. So that's Saturday, February 25th. Then jumping up to March, we've got a women-owned business mini market. And this is actually going to be in Tucson. And that's March 2nd. And that's pretty cool. All right. I'm really excited to start the interview, guys. We got all the pleasantries out of the way, all that stuff. Now let's jump into the important stuff. Nef, let's talk about your art and Nogaleria. Okay, let's talk about Nogaleria, okay? Because I remember all of a sudden hace un rato, no? I got a Facebook, an Instagram follow from Nogaleria. And I went in there, I was like, holy shit, this is cool. And so I followed right away, and then I didn't find out right away, I found out later that you were the one that was involved and behind all this stuff. And I've just watched it grow into this really cool movement that's been part of this snowballing artist movement here in Nogales. And I want to talk about your contributions to this art movement from long before Nogaleria even existed. You've been contributing to the art and music scene here in Nogales. Felicidades and thank you for that.
Gracias.
So I want to hear your side. Let's talk about Nogaleria. How did it start? Where did it go?
Well, it started as a project trying to connect art and history. That was the main point. And through art, like we said, murals and poetry is how I decided to touch on some important facts of our history here in Nogales that, for me, had been kind of lost and weren't that present, especially for the young people. So I obviously collaborated with my colleagues, Tony Plack and Hyde. They are the muralists. I'm really the one behind the logistics of having a mural happen.
Yeah.
Because you need to get permissions, you need to get contracts, you need to get the dimensions and find out how much paint you're gonna need. So there's a lot of work behind getting a mural done.
So you're the brains.
I'm kind of the brains, and you know, I pretty much contracted them to do what they do best, which is the murals.
Yeah, they're both incredible muralists.
Yeah, in that first part, it involved the initial murals, the Charles Mingus, the Nogales Zarape sign, and a couple of cardinals here on Nelson, and some across the line. There's a whole alley that the guys painted along with artists from Nogales, Sonora. And I made a poetry book. I self-published, and the poems are in English and Spanish, and they go more in depth with what we wanted to say, which was talk about the history. So I pretty much, since I am a hip-hop artist, a rapper, writer, I did it in my own style, and some of these poems I perform as songs, and I recite them. For example, last year, that was Charles Mingus' 100th birthday. I was invited to recite my Charles Mingus poem. And for me, that was so special because a few years ago when I did the project, I wasn't thinking that, there was going to be a big celebration of his 100th birthday. His family was going to be there, musicians that used to play with him. So for me, it was really special and meaningful. And I understood why it really drove me to do that. Because my whole point of shining light on Charles Mingus, since he became a legend, is that anybody in Nogales can become a legend, especially for kids. So with the murals, the colors, and all of that, I think we have that outreach to get the community, the young people involved and interested in the history.
Very cool.
So that was the first part of Nogaleria,
That's the
right?
first part. That's the first part, okay?
Because just like you mentioned, it is a whole movement.
Yeah.
And I have been thinking about this since I started developing the project, but it obviously had to be like in stages. So since I'm a musician, I geared toward music this last year. 2022 is when the Hilltop Gallery opened their doors to me to run the open mic event that goes on every month, every second Wednesday of the month. And this way, we open the space that is safe for anybody to come and share their talent, whether it's singing or poetry or even theater, comedy. We welcome anything, really. So now we have opened this stage for people that just want to perform. And now I can say I have some artists that I can put in a show, in a concert, and, be of that entertainment for the public.
There's some incredible talent that shows up at these events. I remember one that you invited me to, hace un rato, the first rap, the first that you had people coming from Douglas. And the sheer display of talent that was there was amazing. El chamaquito que toca la guitarra, ¿cómo se llama? Dorian, he's incredible.
Yeah. And he started being there as a 15-year-old.
Wow.
And now he's 16, he drives now, and it's like, wow, you see these people grow, and in their art, you see them perform and they're more secure, they have original songs now, and they start like collaborating with other artists. So the open mic has really been like a boost for those artists that were looking for something like that.
That's what I was going to say is like, so when Juan Miguel and his sister Alejandra were here, they talked about the importance of that safe space that Nogaleria for these open mic nights and La Línea provide. And I don't think that without these safe spaces, I don't think these artists, musical or otherwise, would be able to flourish. I think that they would remain. I think an artist needs to share their art in order to grow. And having a safe space like that, I think, is vital to that. And I think that it's incredible that you work to provide that space.
Yes, and lately it's been growing, and even the time runs out. But in the first editions, we would do like a jam session at the end.
That's cool.
And it was really special because we would have people that are experienced and very knowledgeable, like Jeff Latham, that he's probably one of our, most experienced musicians in the group that goes to the open mic, and he's elderly, so he brings that that element of knowing the blues and how to just jam. And like these kids like Dorian that are 15, like they start learning that and they play along, and it's just amazing to see everybody just Okay, yeah, let's freestyle. We even had Angela freestyle.
Yeah.
For us.
Freestyle. Wow.
Like jamming,
Not
you
rap.
know, like she sings, like whatever you do is welcome.
I would pay to see her freestyle rap.
No, never.
But yeah, I understand, with Paradise Music, your music project, you've been able to, this has been a good opportunity for you to share too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. I have to say, I started working on music. Well, it was always part of my life, but I really got to college and just got really enamored with journalism and really just sort of let it go. And I didn't think it was ever something I would come back to. And I started recording with a good friend of mine, Omar Soto, who's now based in Tijuana. But even though we recorded an album together, which you can find on most platforms.
Most platforms?
Spotify, Apple Music. But
Amazon
Music, Bandcamp. But I still wasn't used to, and I was also a radio host, so I was used to, recording things, but I wasn't used to performing in front of people. When you're a radio host, you're behind a microphone, and it doesn't matter how many people are listening, you don't visualize that. You know, so I don't think I would have been able to get into the group of performing in front of people if it weren't for spaces like the Hilltop, especially because she's such a good MC. She's encouraging and she's just really chill, and it's just such a good vibe in there. And because of that, I've been able to go to Tucson and do gigs there with friends, and it's
Very
wow,
cool.
I never would have. I mean, it's still very scary. It's so scary. I really admire anybody who does it because it's frightening.
So speaking about her being such a great MC, let's go on to your stage presence. You have incredible stage presence. If you haven't never seen Nefftys perform, it's an experience because you very clearly feel the emotion that the way that you feel about your songs, the emotion from your songs comes out in your performance, and it's you can't help it. It just comes out, and that emotion radiates to the audience. It's incredible. Seeing you perform is an awesome experience.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And if you don't know, Nefftys is also on Spotify, on Apple Music, YouTube Music.
Yes, all the platforms, and I've been doing music for a long time now.
Yeah.
But for me, especially now that I'm a mother, I think of the future a lot in the young people. And that's why it was so important for me to open spaces. And, the Hilltop is just one of the spaces that I've been able to work with because they just wanted that, right? But I'm also looking for other spaces to open because if we look at Tucson or even Nogales, Sonora, there's plenty of spaces where artists can go and have a gig, or if artists from out of town come, we need to have spaces to recreate and have that experience because there's so many amazing artists from the whole world. And we have to stop thinking that Nogales is a place where that nothing happens, it is a place
things happen,
that is very transited.
Yeah.
And just because we don't have these spaces, we lose on some of those opportunities of big artists coming through here.
Yeah.
So in the future, I do feel like I'm cultivating these little artists that have their own thing, that in the future they'll be able to be big enough to open for big acts or even be
a big
the
act.
big act.
And they can say, Nogales made me what I am. That'd be so incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
It's in the vision.
So back to your music really quick. So you told me that you've got a music video coming out soon, right? And we're going to show a behind the scenes video at the end of the episode. But we're also going to be premiering your video in March, right?
Yes.
That's very exciting. That's very cool. I'm really, really excited for this to happen. So how's your music going? I mean, aside from the art, you're so busy doing the art stuff, doing No Galeria. Have you had time to do your music?
So this last year, 2022, I kind of took a pause in releasing new music, so that I didn't have any new releases. Just a collaboration with some artists from Nogales, Sonora. But this year, since I know I have to just let all the stuff out, right? I'm pushing this new song video called Despreocupada, which translates to worryless. And it's really my way of life right now, of no matter what happens, I'm I'm going to stay unbothered by, whatever can happen that is not the best, maybe. And it's very different, I think, of how I've been doing music before, because this one really has an intention of having people feel that, of just going with the flow, but doing your own thing. Like, I don't know if I can explain that. Like you said, my music, you can feel it. I've always written from the heart, and that's really what I feel. But this song is really special, and I really wanted to make a video. And obviously, since I've focused so much on the border, I also wanted to look for somebody who could do the video with that kind of vibe. So I got this filmmaker. She's from Douglas, but she's
Hey, that's okay. It's another border town.
No, yeah, but like she really knows what she's doing. Her name's Tanya Nunez, so shout out to Tanya.
Shout out to Tanya.
She's also an MC, and she does amazing work. She has short films, so I wanted to give an extra step to a rap video.
Oh, cool.
And
Very
so I
cool.
got her, and it's really coming together. I just can't wait to see the final product and show it to everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Hablando de las fronteras, you've also started a new thing with BCA, with the Border Community Alliance.
Yes.
And so give me some details on that.
So I was reached out by them. I was recommended to them to run their Nogales tours, because they opened a program doing different tours in the region to Quebec, Patagonia, and a lot of different places. And they got to me to do the Nogales, Arizona ones. For now, it's just on this side. But it's been amazing. I've done 3 tours already, and still got a couple more to go this year under this program. And for me, I know a lot about history, and I like to share it, but I'm also learning as I go.
I bet.
Visiting, for example, the courthouse is one of our sites to go see. And every time you walk in there, like, there's something new. I talk to other historians around town, and there's always so much that you can start digging up. The Pimeria Alta Museum also has a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just see it all in that visit. But
It's funny, my son, he's 12 now, but ever since he was little, he's loved that museum.
yeah.
Like, he has to go at least like 3 times a year.
Yeah, and it's, very important for people also that are visitors to come and learn and see what has happened here and what really made the border.
One of my favorite exhibits is the time capsule exhibit, where it's really, really cool. Where I don't remember what year they buried it, but it was, I think it was the year that the building opened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very, very cool.
Do you remember what year it was from?
1914.
I'm so curious. I have to see that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go see it. It's such a cool exhibit. You know which one I'm talking about?
The building is from 1914.
Yeah, I think
But
it
I
was,
haven't seen it personally.
So I think the exhibit was like
capsule.
1911, something like that. It's really, really cool. It's a real small, like a case. It's just like a one case, but it's really, really cool. I hope it's still there. It's been a while since I've been there. I hope it's still there. But speaking of the BCA, that's actually what brought you to Nogales originally, right? Was the Border Community Alliance as an internship?
Yeah, it was an internship.
All right, well, let's hear about it.
Yeah, it was, I was a junior in college, and I wanted to learn more about the border, and I had recently studied in Cuba through a scholarship, and so I felt like I had so much more to learn about how the U.S. policy has affected other countries, and it just seemed
We could
natural.
go on for hours with that.
Yeah, that was life-changing, especially meeting muralists in Cuba, interviewing them. That was really
amazing,
cool,
I bet.
eye-opening, and it just seemed natural to go somewhere that was, Latin America, but also very associated with the U.S. And I literally just typed in on Google, border internships, not expecting anything to come up, and I found the Border Community Alliance, and
very cool.
It was really lucky. It was like the 3rd search result on Google, and I didn't know anything about Nogales. Like my parents were like, "Are you going to Arizona or Mexico?" And I was like, "Arizona," and they were like, "Okay." And then the next week I'd be like, "No, I think it's in Mexico," and they'd be like, "Well, you need to get your visas," and I'd be
you're
like,
gonna have to figure it out.
like I literally did not understand the concept.
Yeah.
And I literally just came here. I did not know what to expect.
It's just like, just showed up. I'm just gonna see what happens.
Yeah, and I
Very
really
cool.
fell in love with it. Yeah.
Wow.
That's,
Yeah,
and
that's a great
you
courage.
you left for a little while because you had to, but you came right back.
And I could, yeah.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
That's awesome. And so your being with BCA led to kind of you. I remember the first time I met you was at an event for artists. I think at the Nogales Community Development.
Yes. Wow,
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
And you were freelancing, I think, at the time to just kind of doing things, just trying to spend as much time here as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was really, really awesome. And it's developed into kind of a great career start.
Thank you.
And so far with the Nogales International, but as we know, any of the good journalists that start at the Nogales International get snatched up quickly. But before we jump into the Nogales International, let's talk about your photography, because you did a project along the river. And so I love to hike along the Santa Cruz River. It's one of my favorite places. I don't know if you've been to the Guy Tobin Trailhead in a while.
I don't think so.
Okay, so I actually talked about this in my column once, but if you go down to the Guy Tobin Trailhead and head south, the Guy Tobin Trailhead is in Rio Rico.
Okay.
It's next to the Rio Rico Library. If you head south, the landscape is completely changed, and it's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
But you did a full photo book project along the river, and what brought that? What made you decide to do that?
Oh, I was so lucky. So when I was here for the internship, I got to meet a few really talented artists and just community members. I met Jaxu Belly Gonzalez, who's
It was very cool.
amazing.
She's so awesome.
She's the best. She's like the Beyonce of Nogales. She knows everyone. She's amazing. And then I also met Elena Vega, who's an artist in Nogales, Sonora.
Another
Super talented.
incredible person.
And through Elena, I had to do a presentation for the BCA at the end of my internship, and I mentioned my interview with her. I had done an article on her, and someone reached out to me and was like, "Hey, can you connect me with Elena? I want to basically give her a grant to do a project about the river, to write poetry, I believe." And this woman, her name's Nancy Valentine. She's in Tubac, and I think I was just translating emails between her and Elena so that they could. And then out of nowhere, Nancy, she's amazing too. She is a big supporter of the arts, and she was like, "Oh, Angela, why don't you come and do a project on the river?" And I was like, "Well, I'm not really an artist. I don't paint." But
Hey, there's so many different kinds of art.
that's very true. So she was like, "Why don't you do a photo essay? You like photography." And at first I was like, "Why would I do, I'm not a nature photographer." And I was like, "I can't do that. I don't really know what I would talk about." But I really did want to come back. So I came back. I was still in college. I came for a week or so. And yeah, I was able to just interview people about their connections with the river, which is how I really found, and I was like, whoa, this is not just a photo essay. And I was very lucky for college. I had to do a photo book, and you had to self-bind it. So I was like, let me make it about this. And my professor at the time was just so excited that he was learning about the border. He was freaking out over it. And
That's cool.
I was able to go into the Mascareñas area and then the little town of Santa Cruz, and it was just so sweet and calm, and was able to go to a ranch there and talk to one of the ranchers. I think his name's Cesar. And yeah, it was just really cool to get people's associations with the river, and it was a fun project.
That's awesome. That is so
Thank you.
cool. I remember I actually interviewed you about that before, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
forgot
that was
about
really, really cool. And then eventually you decided to apply for the Nogales International. You were applying for journalism jobs, right?
Yeah, so it was kind of a roundabout way.
Okay.
I came here, I was freelancing for a bit, and I came back to Philly because I had it was really hard to freelance, and
Yeah.
I'll be so open, it was very hard to get a journalism job. I was going through interviews, not getting anything. freelance work, as you know, it's just, it can be very
it's
unstable.
a nightmare
It's
sometimes.
a hard time.
Sometimes it's great though.
Sometimes it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
There's, like, highs
the
and lows.
one thing that I love about freelancing, if you don't know, I freelance as a journalist as well for Futuro Media, although I haven't published with them for a long time. Freelancing can be amazing when there's content and your editors want to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the freedom of working on stories at your own pace and level and things like that can be amazing. It can be exhilarating.
Yeah.
But it also can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you started looking and...
Yeah, I started looking. I was back in Philly with my parents. I was super bummed out that I didn't have a stable job. I was freelancing for the NPR station in Philly, so I was, then the pandemic hit. So I was like, wow. I was lined up for a fellowship in Guatemala, and then that was canceled. So I was like, okay, I'm in Philly. But that was great. I love being with my family.
Yeah,
so
of course.
It was actually really what I needed. But yeah, I eventually got a job in Flagstaff for KNAU, the NPR affiliate there. So I just went for it, and I moved there, I think it was September 2020, so the pandemic was still in full swing. And that was a really cool job. I mean, I had to wake up at 4 a.m. every day, or 3:30, and get in and be the host for Morning Edition. And it was challenging. It was a really cool job, but the pandemic made it very difficult.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
so I was working alone and living alone, and
We talked about that before too, yeah.
Yeah.
It's had to have been difficult.
It was cool. I mean, when the election was happening and I was live on the air, it was so fun and wild. But as much as I really did like my job, and Flagstaff's obviously very beautiful, and I can't wait to go back and visit. But yeah, I was sort of interested in looking for something where I could walk into a newsroom and be around people. And
Of course.
I definitely feel like I got that here. This is just a really special community.
Yeah, and you came at a perfect time, I think. One, we needed a good journalist, a really, really good journalist. You are a good journalist. And the community needed you, and you've brought a lot to the community. You've brought a perspective from an outside perspective, which is always really refreshing to us. But it's also been a roller coaster, right? I mean, well, so before we get to the roller coaster or anything like that, we're only going to touch on that. But let's talk about what you've brought to the community and what the community has given you. So reporting on this community, not just as a freelancer, but now as as a journalist with the Nogales International, what have you learned? How has this changed your perspective? I mean, you'd already built a lot of perspective before, because you weren't new to the community, like you said.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I guess I want to say that when I saw the job opening and people were telling me about it, I was like, I'm not gonna, I just didn't think I was a good fit at first, because I was like, oh, I've never been a professional newspaper reporter. I had been working in radio, and I did not think I was going to come back and do this, but I did just apply. And I think, honestly, talking to who is now my editor, Jonathan Clark, I was like, oh wow, he really just knows a lot about the community, and I was like, wow, I really want to be in a newsroom that is in touch with the community and has its finger on the pulse. And I might be going off on a tangent, but I think right now there's a lot of remote work happening, and I can't imagine working remotely in Nogales and emailing people. This is a community that's very face-to-face, talks on the phone, and so that's what kind of drew me to come back. I just feel like that's how journalism, I don't know. There's when you're in a small community and you are immersed in that community. Sorry, what was the question again? I was just getting
No, you were actually answering perfect. I was talking about how your perspective has changed and what the community has given you, and that was really, really, really cool response.
Yeah, when I was at KNAU, and it's a different type of job, but you're doing a lot of email. You're in a recording studio for most of the day, and you're trying to get information and get it out onto a script and then get it out to the public. But being here, it's kind of forced me back out of my comfort zone, where I have to just
You got to be out and about.
yeah, I have to be out and about. And yeah, I think like a lot of people come here for, you know, a few days, you know, when the New York Times does a story here, they come here for a few days, and I'm not trying to like bash that or anything.
No, of course, but anybody who grew up here understands that we are this community where people come for a story and then very often they just leave.
Mm-hmm.
So we get what you're saying, like without bashing what they're doing, because it's great that they're bringing this attention to the community, but as soon as that attention goes,
Yeah.
they're gone and the attention's gone, and the community goes back to where it was.
Yeah.
So continue with what you're saying, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, and I think like when you get to be immersed in this community, you see so much more nuance, and I'm not like I have so much more to learn. Like I don't.
Don't we all?
Most days I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, or I don't know what's going on in Nogales. Like I feel like I have no idea, and
Neither.
yeah, it's like
Right.
the more what's the saying? Like the more you know, like
The less you know.
the less you know.
Yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, the more you know, the less you know, or something.
And I think I want to add that, like, when I first started doing journalism in college, or when I got out, like, I wanted to be like this person who every story was like this big story, and like, you know, maybe there's like, it's really important to be able to cover everything, like even the spelling bee, like things that are like, okay, this isn't going to be a New York Times epic
But it's
story.
important to the community.
It is, and then you make connections, and it's also good. I think it's also good for your mental health when you're able to cover community events as
Yeah.
well as, you know, really, you know,
The dark things.
the dark things.
Or when you're getting harassed by city personnel.
No.
Anyway, so it's not always great, but I think that was a really good way to put it. That there is positive, some really, really, truly positive experiences that come from reporting on these, you know, things that might not, like you said, might not be New York Times headlines, but they, and to balance out some of the negative that comes with any journalism at all. There's always bad things to report on. I think that was a really, really cool way to put it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And one thing I really love is just like people's enthusiasm. Like a few weeks ago, the Buffalo Soldiers event happened. That was really cool. But there was just a family I happened to talk to, and I was like just asking them how they liked the event, and they had a lot of great stuff to say about how they want to see more events that emphasize the culture of Nogales.
Yeah.
But then they made me take a selfie with them, and that like made my day, that they were so like just excited.
How cool.
Yeah, and it was wholesome.
That's very, very cool. Yes, those wholesome experiences mean so much, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so back to music, okay? So we've talked about journalism, the importance of local journalism, and the impact that has on the community. But also, we talked about your project, Paradise Music, you know, and how you've been at the Nogaleria. What is that project? How did that come about? Where do you have more plans for it to do with that project? And just throw it all out there.
Yeah, so that really started during the pandemic. I mentioned my, like, Omar Soto, who also goes by Andres Omar Soto, but he sort of reached out to me. I think I had just sent him some clips that I was working on, and he reached out and asked if I wanted to do an acoustic project with him. And Omar is like a really talented producer, and he studied it, and he's a really talented everything. So I was really honored, and because of that, he started to send me, and then I moved to Flagstaff. He was here, so it was really weird. He was sending me his songs. I was learning the vocals, recording them for him, and it was really weird because it was remote with the pandemic, and we were 5 hours apart, and then we got to actually record it over here at the underground recording studio.
Very cool. Like
after we were all vaxxed and everything, I paid a visit to Nogales in 2021, and we recorded it all there, and it was a challenge because most of the songs are in Spanish. I wrote one song, and then we wrote one song together, but most of the songs were written by Omar, who's been writing for a while, which is been really inspiring for me to like see how he works. But yeah, that was challenging because I can't roll my R's very well, so like it's so embarrassing. And everyone here is like, why can't you just do it? Do it with me. And I'm like, I can't. But anyway, yeah, so we are working on releasing another single soon.
Okay.
He's now in TJ, so it has been a little, we're using that distance again, but still trying to put stuff together. And
That's one of the great things about modern technology, though, is that
It is.
as difficult and challenging as it may be, it's still possible,
Yeah.
which is so cool. And it's so more possible in a way that wasn't possible before.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
I am going to ask a question that I know the audience is going to want to know. So when is the collaboration going to happen? Come on.
We'll see.
It should be this year.
This
Yeah, it's got to happen, right? It's
Yeah,
got to
we have
happen. I
to.
mean, you two are literally sitting here right next to each other. It has to happen.
And you know, she's amazing in Spanish. I'll probably write something in Spanish.
Oh, that would be cool.
That would be awesome. That'd be
Yeah.
very cool. You have, so did you speak Spanish before you
What?
came here, or?
I studied it in
Okay.
high school, and
Okay.
I think
Yeah, but everybody said it in high
yeah,
school.
that's what everyone says. And then when I went to Cuba, like I was studying it in college. When I went to Cuba, I practiced it there.
Some real immersion there, huh?
It was
Yeah.
some real immersion. They talk beautiful Spanish very fast.
Yeah.
And especially when I was interviewing, there was this wonderful muralist I interviewed who was, actually I interviewed two, and they were both from Camagüey, which is, so it's like different accents, all of that. But yeah, then I came to Nogales in 2017, and that was when I really felt like I was like trying to step it up. And I actually reached out to a friend in Cuba. We were able to start contacting each other when he got better internet access, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, your Spanish sounds so Mexican now." And he started being like, "Way." Now he makes fun of me, but he's like, he sounds like, yeah, it was.
That's very cool. I mean, the best way to do it is to be immersed in it.
Definitely.
And it sounds like, I've listened to you sing in Spanish. Speaking of emotion coming out in your music, you know, just like Nefftys, I have never seen you perform, unfortunately, yet. But I've heard your music. And there is emotion in the words.
Thank you.
Absolutely, emotion comes through every word.
Thank you.
We are going to wrap up pretty soon, but there's something that I wanted to tell both of you. And I'm actually going to get a little bit emotional when I say this, because I think, as you both probably know, I had a really hard time during the pandemic. And I stopped being involved in the community. But I've seen what both of you have done for the community during all of this time, and it has been an incredible inspiration for me. It inspired me to get back into the show again, to be involved again, and I want to thank both of you for that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Means so
That's
much.
meaningful.
Thank you guys.
And you know, even that what you said about your man bun, tying to your roots, you know,
Yeah.
that's what I like to see in people. Just get in touch with who you are, and you know, acknowledge your past, your ancestors, all of that. For me is really important. So, yeah.
And like you talked about emotion coming out in our music, like I feel like emotion comes out in your writing a lot. When I get to read your column, it's like,
Thank you for thank you for mentioning my writing. I was fishing for that. Just kidding. No, but I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, we didn't even mention my column, and I'm glad that you read it.
reaches.
I do really love writing my column. Thank you both so much
Thank you.
Gracias.
for the inspiration you provided me, for the inspiration that you provide young artists in our community, and not just young artists, but artists of all ages in our community, and for being here on the show with us tonight. Happy Valentine's Day to you both.
Thank you.
All right, happy Valentine's Day to you guys. Also, we'll see you guys next week. And don't forget to subscribe, to follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, We Love Nogales. Go to the We Love Santa Cruz. Are you guys part of the We Love Santa Cruz County group? Yeah? Okay, good. You better be. Go to the We Love Santa Cruz County and join that group. There's always event updates. There's so much that is shared within that group. It's really, really cool place. And again, we'll see you next week. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias.
Gracias.
We love Nogales.
Sí.
Gotta go.
Sí somos.